Hello, everybody. It is May 5th, 2022. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone out there. This is the weekly Backdrop developer meeting where we get together every week to talk about the latest happenings in the world of Backdrop. Let's see. Before we go further, we'll do some introductions for the people that are here. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet and a core committer for the Backdrop project. We'll go to Jen and then Alejandro.
Hi, I'm Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California. Looking forward to all of the great stuff coming up in the next release. That's it for me.
Alejandro and then Justin.
Yeah, I'm Alejandro, RG Piano online. I've been contributing to Backdrop since November. I'm in Boulder, Colorado.
Thanks, Alejandro. Justin and then Tim.
Justin Christopherson and just out Denver, Colorado. I help out with infrastructure when I can.
Nice. Colorado contingent showing strong today. Finally, Tim.
I'm Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim and the Issue Queues. I am in Deerwood, Minnesota, and recovering from a big client project as well as the release. We got a great release coming out and just got through feature freeze. So that's all.
Yeah, very exciting. And before we go further, we like to do a little update on Contrib Projects. We've had a couple new ones come through this week. Jen, could you give us the update?
Sure. We've got two new Contrib projects, Well-Known and Security Text, which were both released by the same person this week, I think. They're also a new contributor. So this is from Daniel J.R. May. They had a contributor application recently and now published a whole bunch of modules. So that's great. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. Let's see. So every week we have a forum post that is posted to forum.backdropcms.org under the events category for anything that people would like to talk about during these weekly meetings. We only had one post this past week that was actually a design related issue. And sorry, I'm doing this out of order, Jen, but we didn't have a design meeting today, but we are having this. And I think that was sorted out before the meetings began. It's issue 5601. Could you give us a summary of what that issue was and what the outcome is?
So it hasn't been sorted out. It's just been kicked to we need more opinions. So the question is, should buttons have a little hand cursor instead of the arrow, which is what they have currently? And the internet instructions for how to handle buttons very clearly say no, buttons should not have a hand. They should always have a cursor, and the hand specifically indicates a link, and a link never causes any actions. It just takes you to another page, and it's sort of a visual cue for people. But it seems like the whole internet has been doing this wrong for a very long time. And so people who are accustomed to using the internet really like it when the buttons have a different icon, like the cursor changes. And so even though the age-old instructions say to do it one way, it seems to be that the common consensus is that people want it the other way. And so we had this issue opened against Backdrop in the very early days where people were like, I want hands. And other people were like, but apparently hands are wrong. And so we were like, okay, whatever. And we closed the issue, but it's come up again. And so I figured it might be worth asking people in general again. And it could be just that, if nobody follows the standards and everybody expects it to be the other way around, that is the de facto new standard. And that might be something that we should consider changing. So yeah, and it was the kind of thing where you read the explanation, you're like, that totally makes sense to me. I still want the hand, right? It's like, I get it, but I still prefer it the other way. So yeah, I don't know. I just figured maybe more voices on that could be valuable. It might also be good if we could get accessibility or user experience experts on there that might be able to point out use cases for it one way or the other that those of us who see it every day just aren't aware of, that could be valuable and help guide our decision one way or the other. So put it on the internet. I tweeted it to see if maybe people outside the Backdrop community might have thoughts on it too. But yeah, still open for discussion. So the issue, if anyone's watching this and wants to weigh in, is issue number 5601.
One interesting anecdote. So somebody else brought this up, but I was researching it a bit myself and found all the things Jen just said. But like Drupal 7 had the same issue. They did not by default. But I went to Drupal.org, and Drupal.org now has a hand over if you hover over like the register button. So even though that's not a default behavior in Drupal 7, I don't think Drupal.org is, and I tried Google, I tried a number of major sites, and all of them have the little hand. I couldn't find any that didn't do that. I didn't try real hard, but I went to 5 or 6 sites, and all of them seemed to follow that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll put in my 2 cents on that issue. Sounds since that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Let's see. That's great. Thanks for the background research, and thank you to our contributor Git Ressa, who posted that issue as well.
Yeah, and provided a PR.
All right, let's see here. Other news that for people paying close attention to the world of Backdrop, there was a security release for the link module for Drupal 7 yesterday. And we had a little scramble because link module is integrated into Backdrop Core, has been for several years now. And so usually when a security release affects a contrib version of a module in Drupal 7 that has been merged into Backdrop Core, it usually affects Backdrop as well. So issue 5613 was filed publicly. We verified that the security issue is just an XSS vulnerability in link module does not apply to Backdrop. It seems that was a regression that must have been introduced after we merged link module into core. So we validated that it wasn't a security issue, but then we opened up 5613 to go ahead and add the new test coverage that Drupal 7 added to validate that everything works as it's supposed to in Backdrop as well. So we didn't end up needing to make any functional changes to link module, but while we were at it, we decided that we should go ahead and add more test coverage to make sure that we don't face the same regression in the future. So that issue, 5613, is available for review. All right. Oh gosh, there's so much news that happened this week. The biggest thing of all, of course, is that we passed Backdrop feature freeze for the 122 release. And so on May 2nd, May 1st was the feature freeze, and then the next day, May 2nd, we published the 122 preview release, which is now available for download from GitHub. And that includes all of the new features that will be in the 122 release, which will be coming out in 10 days. So the preview release is intended to let a wider audience of developers, they don't necessarily need to be core contributors, download the packaged release file, try it out, see if there's any regressions, try out the new features, and weigh in on any opinions they have before the final release of 122. Those preview releases don't get pushed out to backdropcms.org or an update module or anything like that. They're just purely on GitHub. So it's not a super wide release, but it is available for anybody interested in checking it out. So let's take a moment to recap the things that we managed to wrap up for 122.
Nate,
oh yeah,
on the preview release, are there any thoughts about like how to test that? Like, could we provide any guidance for what somebody that would be interested to help do that? Like, is it? I assume one thing that would be helpful is if people have dev versions of their sites that they could apply it to, and then just sort of make sure that nothing changes, or
live versions if they're feeling extra.
Yeah, I'd really wouldn't recommend doing it on your live site, but yeah, if you have environments where you have a local environment or a dev environment, that would be the ideal place to go ahead and do those checks of the preview release. Yeah,
some of us have really unimportant live sites that we could that we could safely test it on. So, go ahead.
Yeah, but those are the best places to try things out, and it's it is extra important that we check update hooks in particular. Those are the things that are the most difficult for us to test just in between releases, and it's also the most useful thing to like see what happens on a production site that has more stuff going on than just core. So there are a couple of update hooks in this 122 release, not anything earth shaking or likely to cause breaks, but yeah, those are the big things that always need validation.
I asked that question because the obvious way to test it would be to just spin up a new site, but it's kind of hard to test some of the things on a new site. On the other hand, on this issue, we need some people to just spin up a new site because that's the only way you'll see the big new feature. Well, one big new feature, which is the new content type.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it would be great for some people to spin that up on a fresh news site and just see how that works.
Yeah, and the only really easy way to do that right now is to file any pull request, and you'll get a sandbox that is generated with the latest code. I've kind of toyed with the idea of making the demo sandboxes on the homepage run the preview release, but I don't think that's a good idea because when you download Backdrop, you expect it to match what you saw in the sandbox, and so it would be confusing if we started providing future releases in the sandbox, but then when you download it, you got the previous one. It would be confusing.
Also, if there were something catastrophically wrong, we wouldn't want that to be the thing we were showcasing to people about, look how great Backdrop is. It has this horrible, fatal problem that we're going to fix soon, but not fixed right now.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the latest, like cutting edge. I'm just talking about when we have preview releases.
Yeah, it's still we don't really usually do a release between preview and actual release, and so if we know there's something wrong with preview, it wouldn't get fixed until the release came out. But speaking of demo sandboxes, it would be cool if it were an option, so that it weren't maybe like the demo button you click, but if there was somewhere where it's like you want to try the preview, here's a way you can do it. So I don't know where we can figure out how to put that, but we have the ability to do it if we want to. Just figuring out how to make it fit in is tricky.
Yeah, when this makes me think of when I first started using Linux. I had to download Ubuntu for the first time, and it gave me an option of like which version to download because Ubuntu constantly has this problem of it's like the current release, but then there's the latest LTS release, and it's really confusing which one you should choose as a new user. It turns out there isn't really a right answer, which is probably why it's so darn confusing for Linux, because it's like, do you want something that's a year and a half old, or do you want something that is stable? Or I guess a year and a half old and stable versus like something that's new but not stable. And it's kind of I don't know. It's a very confusing decision to even have to make. All right, let's see. Yeah, but I won't let my own confusion color our own decision too much on that, I don't think.
Sure.
All right. So 122, we finalized all of the functionality that we'll be getting into that release. We brought up a number of issues last week, for which we finished almost all of them. There's issue 46, 45. The new date formats. I'm pretty excited about this one. That's out of the box. Backdrop now defaults to internationalized date formats instead of US based ones, unless you select a US time zone when you install, which is selected automatically for you. So really, for the United States users, nothing changes whatsoever. But US dates are not actually the default anymore. They're now the exception, not the default. So that was a really excellent change to make a more global out-of-the-box installation. Issue 5599, just a small display issue with basis. And issue 5331, this was Herbduel, I think. Yeah, Herbduel had some improvements to book module that he wanted to get completed, and we added some new functionality and way like interfaces to the way that you organize and structure book pages. So that was a great improvement. There's a bigger issue, 3639, that Herb is working on, just making book module better across the board. And so it was nice to get a little bit of movement on that bigger issue with this specific set of fixes. Let's see. It's not on this list because we didn't discuss it last week, I don't think, but we also added a new image format or image style for cards to make it so that cards are sized consistently when you create new ones on a 122 site. So that new card image style goes along with the new view and the new homepage layout and the new content type, all that was added earlier in the release. All right. So yeah, 122, we really pretty much nailed everything that we put into the milestone. There were only 2 issues that got bumped. Issue 5348. This is allow forms to set custom validation messages on required fields. This one actually had been marked RTBC a couple of times before the feature freeze, but as it's adding new functionality to Form API, and we didn't have a lot of time for reviews, I went ahead and let this one slide, hoping that we can get it complete early in the 123 cycle instead. And then Tim pushed forward issue 4569, hiding the title on comments, but you only pushed that one into the 123 milestone like 2 days 2 days before. Once your other issues got cleared out, then you pushed that one in, which is great. I love that kind of enthusiasm. But yeah, that one we're currently going back and forth as to how to present that option in a non-confusing way. So that's also been pushed to 123. Let's see. Yeah, so what are we doing the next 10 days? It seems like a lot of us are taking a breather, which I think is a really good idea. We really we're just push, go there for the last couple of weeks. And we seem to be in a really stable place for the final release. However, we don't need to be, if you're looking for something to do, there is still a lot to be done. And the place to look for things that we can do in the meantime is the bug fix tag. So 121.5 is the next bug fix release. And bug fixes are not restricted by feature freeze. We can continue to fix minor bugs and user experience issues all the way up until the day of release. So that's where activity probably will be going on. I don't actually have any issues from the 121.5 milestone to mention. We did have a big week though, just fixing bugs as well. So let me see, the 121.5 milestone. Sorry, trying to get this listed. Okay, we have 25 closed issues in the 121.5 milestone, which is a pretty big set of bug fixes. But there's still 37 open issues that have been prioritized into that milestone. So that's the best place to look for things that we're trying to get fixed as soon as possible. Let's see. Also, one more shout out. We had a nice issue that was brought up last week, issue 5605, that GitResa, we've already mentioned them once this meeting, but GitResa is a new contributor, recent contributor, and filed a pull request and didn't get any attention to it for a couple of weeks, I think, before they found the documentation page for how to file a pull request and found out that they missed a crucial step of not filing an issue first to go with their pull request. And because we don't check the pull request queue directly, we check the issue queue, they didn't receive any feedback. But realizing what had happened, they filed an issue saying, you know, here's my pull request, and immediately started getting some traction on it. But they were like, this is unfortunate that I waited for months and didn't get any feedback. So they filed an issue saying we should make a pull request template that informs people when they file a pull request, you should also make an issue, which was a really good idea and something I was a little bit surprised that we hadn't done yet. So GitResa made a new pull request template. Bug folder came in and helped massage some of the language a little bit, and now that is now merged and part of our process for filing pull requests. Now we now have, just when you file a GitHub pull request, you'll get a nice little template pre-populating the description field with mostly comments, honestly, telling you things you should know as you file the pull request. Yeah, so that was a really great little enhancement. Thank you, GitResa, and welcome to the community. That's it. That's it for today. We're basically, in the, and I wouldn't really say it's the calm before the storm, it's the calm after the storm. Because usually our release days are really pretty chill affairs,
It's the
where
calm between the storms. Because after we release, then everyone's going to be storming about how excited they are about all of the new stuff they got.
That's true. It shifts our. I'm painting this too much with the brush of development because the development is pretty much over, and now the real effort needs to be pivoted towards marketing, releases. Making some noise after the release comes out. So yeah, that's where
there have been
everything
bug
is.
fix. There have been bug fix storms in the past as well, so we might have that brewing.
That's true. Sometimes, because our momentum picks up so tremendously before releases, sometimes that tide kind of, or that wave kind of continues, but even though there's no more new features to work on immediately, people still get excited about the next release coming out, and so working on bugs and user experience fixes,
Right.
yeah, we still have time for those things. And I'll elaborate more on that the user experience fixes technically could be considered features, but if they're just like tweaks to the way something is displayed, help text, the way that we're presenting things, the workflow of certain pages, user experience improvements, we allow to be a part of the last minute changes as well. So it's not strictly bug fixes, but yeah, there's like this exception for improvements to experience. All right. Yeah, does anyone have anything they'd like to bring up or discuss today? No? Okay. Well, maybe we'll call it for today's meeting then. I appreciate you folks being here today. And of course, a big shout out to our community doing all of this excellent work, making 122 a really excellent release. So we'll close for today, and we'll see everybody. Well, John and I will be out next week, but there will still be a meeting on May 12th, which will be the last meeting before the release of 120.
Will you be here for that meeting?
I don't think that we'll be here.
Okay.
We're hoping to be on like actual vacation.
Good.
We're bringing computers though in case of emergency, but
Sure.
we're hoping to not open them. So we'll see.
Well, we should just be sure to schedule somebody to handle the dev meeting that week. But it's great if we just go ahead without you guys. Like maybe you have another core committer that plays Nate's role.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think that would be really good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's close for today. Thank you, folks, very much, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye, everyone.